Black Friday. It can truly be called an event throughout the country. Stores have unprecedented markdowns as shoppers arrive before the sun has even come up. The day has become infamous for insane shopping, but the day also has a diverse, far-reaching history, almost as far-reaching as the guy who really wants that flat screen. Of course, the most pressing question, why the name Black Friday? A few answers to this question go around, and not everyone is in agreement. A popular one involves financial jargon. Supposedly, Black Friday is the day retailers would bring their earnings from the red to the black, meaning out of a deficit. But Ethan Trex, a writer for Mental Floss, sees no merit to this answer.
Really, if you think about that, that doesn't make any sense, because if you're a big publicly traded company, let's say you're Best Buy, your investors are not going to be thrilled if for almost 11 months out of the year you're turning a loss. And you're not going to turn in 3.5 quarterly report where you're losing money.
Dan Butler of the National Retail Federation sees a more plausible answer.
What happened is the employees working in the stores just got overwhelmed with how busy it was, and it just kind of became known as Black Friday because employees were just so busy that day.
However, Butler continues, this doesn't necessarily give the day a bad connotation.
It wasn't a bad name, it was just sort of a name that was given to it, like, it's so busy that we're all going to be depleted by the end of the day. And that's probably true today, too, because you have to go in so early to make sure your stores are set up, and then you've got to do business all day long.
Believe it or not, Black Friday was not always the event it is known as today. In the 1800s and into the 1900s, sales did not exist. Prices were never marked down. But then, Butler explains, a prominent shift in shopping dynamics came.
Slowly what happened is, there became this interest and need in marking things down, and retailers realized, well, we don't want to carry things over from year to year if we don't have to, because products have a shelf life. And it's kind of like, food items expire at a certain point in time, and, a sweater doesn't expire, it doesn't spoil the way food does, but over time it becomes an aged product, and retailers learned that they didn't want to carry things over.
Then, in the 1970s and going into the 80s, retailers realized it might be to their benefit to pay more attention to their consumers.
What happened was retailers just looked at price and said, look, not everybody wants to wait for a sale, or they don't want to wait to the end of the season. If they need a new coat now, they want to be competitive. And so retailers have really responded to trying to meet the needs of customers when they need the item versus here's a good time for us to mark it down sort of thing.
As Lauren Coleman-Lochner, Bloomberg's retail reporter, sees it, some shoppers really do need these bargains and participate in the Black Friday madness out of necessity.
There are people who genuinely need the bargains. These are obviously limited bargains. They're available only for a few hours in many cases. So there are people who really are seeking to save what could potentially be, hundreds of dollars, depending on how big your shopping list is.
These days, we know Thanksgiving to be the fourth Thursday in November, but before 1941, it was known as the last Thursday of the month. There's not much of a difference, except when there are 5 Thursdays in the month. Delving into history a bit more, we see in the midst of the Great Depression in 1939, Thanksgiving fell on the last day of the month, November 30th. This spelled a shortened shopping season in an already terrible economy. President Franklin Roosevelt heard from the Retail Dry Goods Association and was told the short season wouldn't help the economy at all. As Trex explains, Roosevelt had a solution.
So Roosevelt looked at it and thought, well, heck, this seems easy enough. So he moved Thanksgiving up by a week. So instead of being November 30th that year, it was a week earlier on the 23rd.
In theory, this seemed like a great idea. More time between Thanksgiving and Christmas would logically equate to more shopping time. For Roosevelt, though, the execution could have used some work.
They didn't announce that there was going to be an earlier Thanksgiving until late October. So at that point, people had already sort of made all their plans for what they were going to do with their families, and it left everyone scrambling about, well, what day is Thanksgiving really? So some state governments were really confused. They observed 2 different Thanksgivings that year. People referred to the imposter Thanksgiving as Franksgiving, and it was sort of a big mess.
Though Roosevelt's solution helped retailers and sales, it sent the rest of the country to a conflicted and confused state. Finally, in 1941, Congress passed a new resolution to end the madness. Thanksgiving was, and still is to be, the 4th Thursday in November. And of course, Black Friday remains the start of the Christmas shopping season, though something which always seems to irk shoppers is the phenomenon known as Christmas creep, during which retailers set up for Christmas earlier in the year, some even starting before Halloween. Butler, however, just sees it as an effect of the economy.
This year, there are many retailers, because of the economy over the last couple of years, and because this year they really want to maximize the opportunities they have to satisfy their customers and sell more merchandise. We see many retailers extending Black Friday values earlier in the month. But it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's planning to do their holiday shopping earlier. But for the consumer, it's good news because you can look now and kind of, if you're planning ahead and thinking ahead about the holiday season, you can select items that are on sale, and you can look and see, hey, this might be a great deal now, and I can go ahead and get that gift, and I don't have to wait until Black Friday.
One could also argue there is a Black Friday creep as well. Butler explains further.
We also see more retailers considering opening on Thanksgiving Day or very early on Black Friday morning. So I think every year for the last several years we've seen that kind of movement that way happening as well.
Of course, the recent Great Recession had a great effect on Black Friday sales. Coleman-Lochner details it.
The recession has had a huge impact, of course, on all of consumer spending, which is about 70% of the economy. And we had seen a huge decline in all kinds of spending, but particularly hard hit was luxury spending. In 2008 and 2009, we saw huge declines.
The mindset of the customers can be just as important as the money they spend. Butler believes with the recession on its way out, that mindset will adjust.
Last year and the year before, we think the customer was very focused on price and value. And this year, we think the customer is going to be more focused on the experience they have when they shop and looking for those really memorable gifts that they think will be something that if they give it, it'll be something that the person they're giving to will value it and treasure it.
Butler also believes the floodgates may be open this shopping season after the consumer had been held back in recent years.
We think there's some pent-up demand out there. Many people have put off big purchases like big screen TVs and things like that because they said, if we're going to spend the money on it, let's make it part of our holiday celebration, and it's a big gift for the family, that sort of thing.
Coleman-Lochner sees a great divide in shoppers this year.
I found kind of a division between the sport shoppers, people who would bundle their family in the car at 3 in the morning and wait online in 18-degree weather, and people who really said, look, I have a very long shopping list. I need to buy something for everybody in my family, and I need to save money. People who are out of work. I would say, based on my very limited experience talking to just people online and in stores during a short period of time, that it was kind of equally divided.
If you need a story to get you in that Black Friday mood, Butler has seen it all.
I remember when we would have sales in the mid-'70s where the store I worked in had 4 doors on the 4 opposite sides of the store, right? And the aisles came together in the middle of the store, and we would literally unlock the doors, and the customers would run in with this fervor to get sales and bargains and literally run into each other in the middle of the store.
As you can see, the Black Friday madness is timeless, though hopefully the chaos can be good for one thing, helping you work off that Thanksgiving dinner. For You Are Here, I'm Steve Burns.